Yes. Hi. So I'm Stephen Lee. To give a little bit background of myself, I'm somewhere there originally. For privacy reason, I make the circle quite big. So I moved to Singapore around 12 years ago, right? And who's here not originally from Singapore? Can you put your hands up? Okay, quite a lot. And there's few things that I noticed in Singapore after I moved, right? To give a little bit background, I'm from a small town and it takes 7 hours just to reach to Singapore. And I have to use speedboat, right? So the first thing that I noticed that I can see the sky. What I mean by the sky is that there's no such thing, right? Yeah, same. So this kind of things, right? It gets messy. It's similar to our code, right? So if we add a new buildings nearby, it just keep adding up, right? And we are just hoping that it doesn't break down. So I see that this kind of things doesn't happen in Singapore. I'm really into architecture right now, in specifically building. So if we look at Singapore, right? If we go to this map, so the orange one is a plan for new building, right? Whereas the purple one is the one that is being worked on or has finished. So let's have this as kind of like our code, right? If I want to refactor this piece of land, right? A lot of times we need to deal with the road, how we need to have more paths for the water and so on. But I don't see that the case in Singapore. So this is what I see, right? So this piece of land is being barricaded and only this piece of land is being worked on. So this kind of thing is similar to our day-to-day coding. And my principle of strong foundations is unit testable, right? So let's go to the definition of unit test. The first one is an individual thing or person regarded as single and complete, but which can also form an individual component of a large or more complex whole. That's the first one. The second one is a device that has specific functions, especially one forming part of complex mechanism. The reason I want the definition of unit test to be shown here is that because I see a lot of times we as engineers, we have get the unit test definition a bit wrong. A lot of times we do it as component test or end-to-end test. So to make it simple, right, I have my own definition of unit tests. The first one is n minus 1 need to be more. What I mean is that n is what you want to test, right? N minus 1 is all dependencies you require to be used by n. And let's just go, because all of you is kind of like really excited to use SwiftUI, right? I will give example in SwiftUI. So this is the typical MVVM, right? If you see, in order for me to make the body, right, for user view, I need to create the view model inside the content view. So by doing this, it is not testable. So let's go to my ideal architecture based on the principle that I have, which is unit testable. So a screen, I call it a screen because everything in SwiftUI is view, right? So as a view controller, I call it a screen. So as a user, when you interact with the screen, right, it will notify the screen model. The screen model may or may not notify the screen for its change. And the third one is that as a user that interact with the screen model, I may or may not notify the navigation router or coordinator, whatever you call it. So screen contains screen model owns router. And to make this everything happen, right, we wrap it as in the builder. So let's assume it as a one component, right? And this one of the small sample. So as an app flow, right, you go to main, there's 3 states that you can have. splash, onboarding, home. From home, you can go to chat screen, voice chat, or maybe you go to setting. Let's go to one part of the tree, because SwiftUI is kind of like tree structure. So for main, I can go home, go to chat, and go to voice chat. So in our day-to-day coding, right, there's a few modules that is required for us to work on. For example, I have networking, analytic, feature flag, and yada yada. So all of this will be created in main and will be injected to home and chat. In the voice chat, right, I might need a new module, for example, text to speech or speech to text. Therefore, I create the new module inside it and I inject it inside. So based on this, right, let's create a view model, or I call it screen model, right? Firstly, you need to create a protocol and the implementation. So this one is quite straightforward, right? I have an appear and I have the on appear implementation. And let's go to screen. On screen owns two things now. It has view model. It also has builder. I will go to builder later on, right? But as you can see that once my screen appear, right, I call view model.appear. I can do whatever I want inside there. So let's go to dependencies, right? So I separated into two. The first one is protocol for dependencies. Basically, all dependencies that are required by parents. And component is whatever dependencies that you need that is not required from the parents. And I will go to builder, right? Builder have protocol again, right? To build the screen and the implementation, which is will initialize the actual screen model. That will actually create the screen as well. So let's go to sample code. Since I was told that we have a lot of time, I will do it slowly. So as I mentioned before, right, everything's come from the main, right? So I initialize my component inside here.
Can you enlarge command plus?
So in my root of my screen, I need authentications, right? The authentication is quite simple. Basically, there's a publisher to tell if you're logged in or logged out. There's a function for login. There's a function for logged out, right? From this root screen, right, I will go to the root screen. So there's two states here. If it is logged in, I will go to main. Otherwise, I go to logged in. So let me just run this for a bit. So basically, because I'm not logged in, I have a login screen. When I click it, I will be in main screen. If I go to here, right, I can click logged out. If I click logged out, I should be in the login screen again, based on my states. So that is pretty simple right now. But let's do live coding in such a way that I add another screen. So I would like to add a screen where I can type something. I will then let my apps speak what I've typed. So I will create a new folder. Let's call it speak. And I create a new file. Speak. So basically I have three files being created. The first one is the builder, right? The second one is the screen. It also has the mock. So remember my principle is n-1. As you can see here is that I can mock my model, I can mock my builder. Out there I have my view model. So I would like to have a text. Let's go to view model, right? I would like to have var After that, I will just use text field. After that, I would like to have a button. And I would like to have my view model to register these actions, right? Let me see what's wrong in here. Text. Let me just compile to ensure that. Nope. And then I have this code which is space sanitizer, right, which I will use. So basically, I want this in my builder as a component. And I would like this to be injected to the view model. Oops. Okay, build success. But I haven't initialized this view anywhere. So I would like to add it perhaps in detail screen. So in the detail screen, I have, so basically I have a navigation link. I apologize, I'm being lazy. Otherwise I could have used navigation path, right? So what I'm doing is that, hey, for navigation link, I'm assigning the value as string, right? And in my stack view, I will just say, hey, if the value is string, please initialize build speech. So basically, now I'm implementing the dependencies, which is speed dependencies. And in the builder, right, I will just create the protocol to build the speech. And now I'm implemented. Well, the success, let's try if it works. I log in, I go to any number, speech to text, right. Seems like there is no sound. Well, what a bummer. But it is supposed to say hi, hello iOS dev, right? So if you see all of this, right, we can ensure that most of the things is testable. Only builder is not testable, but most of the time builder is just plain vanilla code that doesn't really need to be tested.
Just continue. Just continue.
Oh, I think that's all from my side. Any questions?
What is SMB?
SMB, Screen Model Builder.
How do you get it in your Xcode?
I use Xcode template, so I created a template. I'll just put it in my Xcode. Since my project, the whole team is using this. Any more questions? I will share a sample code if it's hard to digest. If there's no questions, I have questions that I was expecting, but it's not being asked. The question is, how scalable is the architecture, right? I will tell you it is scalable until last year. The reason is that because of Vision OS, right? There's one thing that, okay, so I was saying that, hey, from chat to voice, right? I need text to speech module and speech to text. So if I want to make the voice chat as immersive view, right? One stupid thing is that I'm not sure why Apple is doing this. So all of these things need to be initialized in the main because the immersive view is a window and you cannot you cannot do dependency injections, which is from chat to the main. Therefore, you need to bring all of this module that's supposedly being initialized in the long run, not at the start, but now you need to initialize it at the start. And for sample code is here. Any more questions?
How do you set up UI test?
UI test is a snapshot test. If you want to do end-to-end test, you just move the whole thing, right? But if you wanna do snapshot test, so basically this thing itself, right? Let me just run this. Give it a while. Oh man, so slow. I need the M4. So all of this screen, right? Actually, the value is being mocked. So if I want to, I can say. So basically, you can do your snapshot test, right, with the mock value, which is almost the same as this. What I would do, I would just put it in preview content, so it can be used in the preview as well as in the snapshot test. Any more questions? No? All right then, thank you.
Hi everyone. My name is Vina and I'm also an iOS developer. Huh? Oh, okay. I mean, this is my soft voice. Okay, so tonight I would like to share something very basic that most of us actually struggle. Okay, so it's called ObservedObject or StateObject. So can I ask, like, how many of you have not used SwiftUI yet? Like, at least have never used ObservedObject or StateObject. Never. Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, so I noticed that a lot of people, iOS dev in Singapore, they haven't really used SwiftUI yet. So that's why I actually requested so many people in the community that if you use SwiftUI, please share it to through the meetup, including Stephen. So tonight is about like a very practical stuff. Like, how many of you actually Google um, ObservedObject versus StateObject before, and you see at least these three results by either by Donny Walls or Evanderly or Paul Hudson, right? It's like their content is the top three, and then you start reading it and you're like, oh, okay, I think I'm just gonna StateObject everything, right? Because at the end of the day, they explain that StateObject basically maintains the state in your view in a more how to say, in a more stable way. Okay, but let's relook at this. I have summarized in a fun sample project. Okay, and I'm gonna kind of like live coding. Okay, so big enough, right?
Just press like twice. Yeah.
Okay, so okay, I also have a cheat note. Okay, don't worry if you don't understand what is happening here, because when you rewatch it later, I'm sure you will understand. Okay, so let's say we have a very simple view that I have here, right? When you create a new project, you will have like the normal hello world and all, and I just created like a H tag. So if I go over here, okay, so this is the V stack of a text and a button, another V stack of this one, the text and the button. So each of this button is just gonna increment the counter, and the counter is this label. And whenever I press, like when you see here, the button label is left, and this is the SF symbol code, and then this is when the button is pressed, the action is left button tap, and then I'm just incrementing the left count by 1. Okay, then I will run this and it just works right from the preview. Okay, so now, being a good developer, I want to kind of like, I'm not as advanced as Steven yet. I'm just gonna be wise and say, okay, I'm gonna take out all the logic and create a view model, right, for this content view. So usually, a simple one. Okay, I have my cheat code here. I'm gonna have a view model here, and what I need to do is, I don't need the state anymore, but I will declare it as a view model equals to view model, right? And I will also remove this because the function is already moved to the view model, right? And the view model actually has a variable which can only be privately set. And of course, this I have to update to view model this way. And this one also. Okay, but does it work? It still works. But when I, okay, it's actually, no, it's not working. Why? Because when we do the view model does not really keep the state any of the left count and the right count anymore, right? So the next thing in the SwiftUI is that we need to somehow make this view model basically updating and like having a strong relationship with the content view, right? So definitely the next thing is usually what we do is that we attach a combine, right, which is subclassing from the ObservedObject. So this is the first step that you need to do. So once do this, is it still working? No, because there is no reason for this class to kind of like tell the view to redraw that my state has changed. So usually what people do is you see they start to use the property wrapper called publish, right? But before I jump to that, I just want to let you know that we can also trigger a re-render by triggering object will change. Let's send. So what happened is that this method will actually tell the view to, once the left button is tapped, redraw everything again. Okay, but in here, because I only added into one function, I can prove to you that when the right button is tapped, the view is not gonna re-render. However, the value internally actually still updates. For example, I tap left. How come? Oh, sorry, I forgot. I need to add to make this as a observed object. That way, then the view actually will re-render. So now it increments, but when I tap the right, it will not increment. Why? Because okay, when I tap the left, the right will become 1. Why? Because I already pressed this button, but I never send a signal to redraw the view again. Okay, looks like a lot of you get it because a lot of you not. Okay, I'm happy for that. So yeah, basically it's this method. Now without this method, I can actually do that, but then I have to make this a publisher. So yeah, publisher. So by doing this now, actually I can just reload it in the preview, and now both left and right are maintained. The value is updated. Okay, now this is regarding the observed object, right? So I think we have established the observed object, and the conclusion is that when you declare a view, that the observed object instance, the instance is replaced every time SwiftUI decide that it needs to discard and redraw that view, right? The meaning of this, like from Ronnie Walls, is that because you have this publish, whenever you change any of this left count and right count, the view is going to be redrawn again, and including the observed object. Okay, now suppose I want to put this oh yeah, what I'm okay, so I'm gonna put this let's say into a component. So this is now becomes child view, and the content view is, wait, what I want is actually something like this. Okay, and I create another state. This one came through as well. Now these two buttons is actually now becomes the child view of the content view, where the content view actually has another state. Okay, so it's still working, But guess what will happen when I toggle the on? It resets to 0. What is happening here? Like, it doesn't make sense, right? Because we thought that, okay, the observe object is supposed to maintain the state, but then um, because the content view has a state that tells itself that anything changes on my is on, redraw the view again. So the observe object gets reset because you create it in this child view. Okay, not lost, right? Right. So what can we conclude here? We established that observe object will be recreated every time, and actually the solution is to this is to make this as a state object. If I create a state object, it will be rendered again. When I toggle on and off, it doesn't reset to 0. So the state object will live as long as the view is still there. Okay, it's quite tricky, right? So in this case, this is why a lot of people just simply think that, okay, then let's state object everything because it is safer, right? Anything that you have as a child view, use as a state object. Wow, that is gonna be quite dangerous. So what happened if I, let's say, if I, let me check my cheat sheet. What if I add, okay, to clarify something, maybe I will have a title, string, and title is counter1, and I clone it counter2, and to do that I will add title. Okay, so I have two counter, its own each counter has their own state object, and on and off are totally kind of like independent, all these three. So we're happy, right? And then what I'm gonna do next is kind of like put this child view into in another screen, right? Okay, so I'm gonna create a navigation link here. Go to counter2. Oops, actually it is the it's the other this one. So the value is gonna be this child view, and the label is gonna be text. So now this kind of like this navigation link is bringing me to the another screen, but it's with the child view number, title number 2, counter number 2. Okay. The reason why this is like grayed out. The reason why this is like grayed out is because I have to embed this into a navigation view. So now I can click this link and okay, let's say put 3, go to number 2, and it's 0. I mean, for some cases, it depends on your cases, okay? But in my cases, I'm gonna what I want is that this counter 1 and counter 2 should have the same value. Okay, this is not gonna happen. Why? Because the state object is actually gets, it's a separate state object, right? So even though I do this, okay, maybe make it more, and when I get back, when I go to counter, it gets reset again, which it shouldn't be the case, right? Because we thought that, okay, state object should maintain the state, right? But actually the lifetime in one of the article, it summarizes that if you mark an observe object as a state object, the state object don't get destroyed and reinstantiated. At times they're containing view structure redraws. So the state object lifetime is actually the same as the view. The reason why this gets reset is because there's no more child view. You already push back and you are back into this screen. So when you create this screen, the state object is actually resets again. So in this case, you can say that that's why you shouldn't state object everything, because you need to understand this underlying concept. Okay, so then you're thinking, okay, so if I want both counter 1 and counter 2 to have the same value, what do you suggest, right? Right. Um, so one way is actually to there's this concept called, so there is, okay, pay attention, this is iOS developer interview question by Paul Hudson. So usually a commonly interview question asked is, so when would you use state object and observe object? So look at how the hacking with Swift answer here. I can jump to the underlying one. So the state object is used when you create an object for the first time and want to retain ownership of it, whereas observe object is used in other places where you pass the object, okay, and does not retain ownership. So the question is here is that, okay, I want this counter to state to be the same as counter 1 state, but they're on the different screen. Okay, so which screen should retain the ownership, right? Okay, the answer is like, does any screen need to retain ownership? No, right? Okay, so in that case, what we can do is that also kind of like a quote by Evander Lee. He says that it is unsafe to create an observed object inside a view. Create an observed object inside a view is unsafe, okay? Since SwiftUI might create or recreate a view at any time, unless you inject the observed object as a dependency, you want to use the state object wrapper to ensure consistent result after a view readout. I would say like this paragraph is really mind-blowing, because there was one day I was like just like mobbing with my colleague and my lead, right? And basically it like ting like that, like you can actually inject something as an observed object. So let me show you. So okay, inject something. How do you inject something? I can inject first, that means I don't need a state object anymore, right? Observe object. And then this is actually as a type view model. And then how do we inject is through view model, right? Through init view model. And then view model equals observe object with a wrap value of the view model. Wow, this becomes an injected view model now. Are you sure about this? I'm not really sure. I mean, my cheat sheet is until here. Okay, but basically we inject the view model. So now when I create a child view, I need to inject the view model. Okay, okay, actually I need to inject the title as well. Title as a string. Sorry, bad sequence. So this would be a private now, and cell.title equals to title. Okay, so here then the view model is right. I could actually make view model here goes to view model, and the view model here is the view model, and the theory is the same. Okay, is there an error? No, but this will throw an error because I have to inject the view model. And one more place should this be? View model is. So, are you saying that this will work? Yeah, because this view model is an external, right? It is not created anywhere inside the content view. Well, will this work? I hope so. Moment of truth. Okay, so again, let's say I put 5 on the left, 0 on the right. I off the on, okay, it's still okay. So I go to counter and it gives me the same value. So in this case, who owns the view model? None, neither of the screen own the view model. The view model is basically is created in this app, like it's going to still live because essentially this is the same. Yeah, and you know what's the advantage of this is that you now completely separate your view and the view model logic, and actually this view model part is completely testable. How do I test it? Okay, I'll save it for next time. Yeah, but I hope you get the story, and it's a very basic stuff on the combine. But if let's say you still don't understand about this, right? Just let one of the organizers know that so that we can cater to an even more basic talk if you want, you know. And you can relook at this talk again and you think, okay, now I understand. But one thing I guarantee that nowadays, if you are applying an iOS job, they will definitely ask this question because well, I think my manager asked it. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's the talk. Is there any question?
Would you want to use environment object instead of passing the V model down? For
Definitely, yeah. When we are involving a state that is more than 2 screen, maybe it's definitely time to use environment object.
Is there a difference between environment object and just passing it down besides the convenience part? Is there any functional difference?
Well, the environment object, if the object is too big, is basic. I personally think it's similar like singleton. It's really bad to dump everything in the environment object. Yeah. So for the sake of sanity, usually like a big architecture, right? We require everything to be unit testable. So definitely the view model needs to be injected as a dependency. Yeah.
Also to add on environment object, you cannot use protocol as an abstract.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Do you know why?
But I believe you can use Swift macro just to have some like a compiler macro to know which one you want to use potentially on for production.
Yeah. There is another article that says that you should use state object as a private thing, but I think it's different. It's a different approach altogether about that. It's not about the ownership or the retained data anymore. Yeah, the private state object thing. Either way, in iOS 17, all this concept is gonna change. You no longer need add publish, and you just mark it as an observation. But a lot of people are still stuck with this iOS 16, so understanding this concept, I think, is still very important. Yeah. Any more questions? Oh, I'm so happy nobody asked. Okay, yeah, that's it. So it's time for the Kahoot, and I apologize, maybe the Kahoot is a little bit difficult. But we always have a oh yeah, and I also forgot to bring the prize, which is the AirTag, but I promise you,
If you win, we'll get it to you.
yeah, if you win and come to the next meetup, I'll give it to you.